I stood in front of a dilapidated mountain temple at Shirley Slope, looking back at the girl I had finally managed to trick into joining me. Her long black hair was tied back with a simple red string, giving her an ethereal look despite her confusion. "Master," Li Yingling said, her voice hesitant as she stared at the crumbling ruins. "Is this really our sect's gate? The one you called the greatest immortal sect in the world?" I adjusted my worn-out Taoist robes and put on my best mysterious master expression. My face was handsome enough to sell the lie, so I leaned into it. A mountain doesn't need to be high. It only needs an immortal to be famous. You're still young. Don't be so superficial. Li Yingling's eyes brightened with sudden realization. I get it. There's a hidden realm inside, right? I read about this in the Chronicles of Qishan. You open a broken door and find a golden palace hidden behind a barrier. She didn't wait for an answer. She sprinted forward and pushed open the creaky, rotting doors, her face full of pure, naive expectation. What she found instead was a headless statue and cobwebs hanging from the rafters. The old offering table had been dragged over to a pile of broken wood to serve as a desk, and one of its legs was literally propped up by a random rock. In the corner, a few stones were piled together to make a crude stove with a tiny iron pot sitting on top. It looked less like a sect and more like a beggar's den. I walked in behind her, my expression calm and unbothered. "Stop reading those trashy novels written by mortals. They'll rot your brain. Now, hold on while I rip a wooden board off the side of that statue to make you a bed. This temple is huge. You can sleep wherever you want." Li Yingling looked like her world was ending. "Master, is cultivation really supposed to be like this?" "It's exactly like this," I said firmly. "But what about the golden palaces?" She whispered. "The floating peaks hidden in the clouds? The grand halls? Did you see those with your own eyes? Or did a friend tell you?" "The books said." "Exactly. The books. Real cultivators don't care about vanity. As long as you become an immortal, who cares where you slept? Do mortals understand the great Tao? Simple is better." She looked at the leaky roof. "But this is a bit too simple, isn't it?" "Enough talk," I snapped, cutting to the chase. "Are you going to cultivate or not?" "I'll do it," she squeaked. I sat down on my wooden board and allowed a small smile to creep onto my face. "Then stop standing there. Kneel and perform the formal greeting." She hesitated, her feet shuffling, but she knew she had no way back. If she went home, her father would marry her off to the minister's idiot son, a man who had to be hand-fed and spent his days drooling at women in the street. A broken temple was a paradise compared to that. She dropped to her knees and slammed her forehead against the floor. "Master, please accept your disciple, Li Yingling." Suddenly, a voice rang out in my head. "Newbie task complete. Recruit 1 disciple. Reward, flawless golden core. Target Li Yingling detected. Talent, single attribute water spirit root. Textbook issued. Supreme Tying Profound Spirit Water Sutra. Items sent to inventory." I felt a wave of pure relief wash over me. 3 years. It had taken me 3 entire years to find a disciple that the system actually recognized. The system's requirements were insane. The kid had to have the potential to become a literal immortal. In this world, that meant a grade 2 spirit root at the very least. People like that were rare treasures that top-tier sects fought over. How was I, a lowly foundation establishment cultivator, supposed to find a genius who was blind enough to follow me? I had wandered the entire Great Wu Kingdom, playing it safe, until I finally tricked her. I opened the system panel to check her stats. Disciple, Li Yingling. Potential, gold grade, cultivation genius. Luck, purple grade, strong fortune. Appearance, blue grade, beautiful. I knew she was just using me as a shield to escape that marriage, but with stats like those, I didn't care. I had picked this remote temple specifically to hide from the minister's reach. It was 30 miles from the nearest soul. I had spent 3 days planning her escape just to finish this quest. As the reward hit, a massive surge of spiritual energy flooded my body. My cultivation skyrocketed, and a golden core began to form in my dantian. Li Yingling, being a natural genius, felt the shift immediately. She couldn't see my internal changes yet, but she felt the air vibrate as my aura surged. "Master? What was that?" "I'm just happy to have you as my student," I lied smoothly. A bit of my suppressed power leaked out. You can stand up now. She nodded, looking impressed, but then she glanced around the empty room. Where are the others? Since this is the #1 sect in the kingdom, you must have many disciples. Where are they? It's just you for now. She froze. Huh. I follow an elite path, I said, not missing a beat. I only take in those destined for greatness. I don't waste time on trash. But, can we really be the #1 sect with just 2 people? I alone can flatten this entire kingdom, I boasted. Why wouldn't we be #1? Li Yingling looked at me with a face that said, my mother was right. Handsome men are all liars. If I hadn't actually stood up to the minister's guards for her, she probably would have run for the hills right then. Master, please don't lie to me, she sighed. I reached into my system inventory and pulled out the manual, the Supreme Tying Profound Spirit Water Sutra. The book that appeared in my hand was yellowed, crumpled, and looked like it had been through a washing machine. The first few words of the title were so faded they were just blurry ink stains. Only the last 3 characters were clear. Here, I said, tossing it to her. Practice this. You'll see if I'm lying then. She caught the book, her eyes full of hope that this was some legendary secret scripture. Then she looked at the cover. She squinted at the blurry mess and read the only legible part aloud. Water. Heart. Manual. She looked at me like I had just handed her a piece of trash. What kind of top-tier immortal art is called the Water Heart Manual? That sounds incredibly basic. The cover is falling apart. Did you buy this from a street stall? Am I going to explode if I read this? In the stories she read, legendary manuals glowed with 5-colored light or hummed with ancient power. This thing looked like it would be better used as toilet paper. Master, she said weakly, holding the book with 2 fingers. Can we maybe try a different one? I naturally shut down Li Yingling's ridiculous complaints. The cultivation techniques provided by my system were top-tier, designed for a perfect path to immortality. They were tailor-made for specific spiritual roots, the kind of manuals even the greatest sects might never see. She should have been celebrating her luck instead of nitpicking. Besides, it wasn't like I had anything else to give her. Night fell. Li Yingling lay beside me on the cold, hard wooden boards. There were no soft pillows like she had at home, and it was clear she was struggling to sleep. Even with her clothes on, the lack of a blanket made her restless. Master, she whispered into the darkness. What is it now? I snapped, feeling grumpy. It's the middle of the night. The door is leaking wind, she complained weakly. I'm cold. I let out a long yawn. Get up and walk around. Once you're not cold, go back to sleep. But I'll just get cold again the moment I lie down, she muttered. I sighed, feeling a bit helpless. I told you, that manual is the Supreme Tying Profound Spirit Water Sutra. Just practice it. Once you hit the 3rd or 4th level of chi refining, you won't feel the cold anymore. She glanced sideways at the Water Heart Manual lying next to her. Master, you're really hard to believe sometimes. She gritted her teeth. Fine. If I die, I die. I chose this master, so I guess I have to suffer the consequences. She sat up, grabbed the manual, and moved toward the dying embers of the fire. She flipped to the first page. The first line read, I am the true Lord of Water Spirit. This technique is my exclusive secret, A true immortal's technique? Her mood brightened instantly. Then she read the second line. I am the true Lord of Raging Waves. The guy above wrote trash. I've modified this to be more aggressive, Practice with confidence, She nodded, satisfied that a great master had refined it. Then she looked at the third line. I am the true Lord of Sea Flipping. The 2 above are idiots. What they wrote is misleading. I have fixed it again, Her eyes scanned the rest of the page. It was a mess. Every line started with I am, followed by a different title, each one cursing the previous person for being a failure. According to the first page, at least 17 different masters had modified this thing. It was basically the 17th version of a group project. She shivered and flipped to the next page, praying the edits had stopped. I am the Northern Sea Emperor, the text screamed. Stop freaking changing it. You're all terrible at this. I almost went into cultivation deviation because of you idiots. This is the final version. Do not touch it. I repeat, do not touch it, Below that, the edits finally stopped, but the page was a disaster of thick ink blots. Almost everything had been crossed out. Only one sentence remained legible at the bottom. The spirit of heaven and earth is original. It was a completely useless sentence. She flipped to the next page, but it was even worse. The entire thing was blacked out, then overwritten in red, then the red was blotted out, and finally, someone had used white paint to force new words over the top. These masters clearly had massive egos and refused to lose. The rainbow of clashing ink made her head spin. She looked back at me, her voice trembling. "Master, if I go into cultivation deviation, will you be able to save me in time?" I propped myself up and looked at her huddled by the fire. "Just practice. You won't deviate. Would I ever hurt my own disciple?" "Master, are you sure you didn't just find this on a street corner?" "You saw it yourself," I countered. "Do you think a street stall would sell something with that much expensive ink used for corrections?" She looked down at the book. True, the sheer amount of ink used for the fake edits would have cost a fortune. "Fine. I'm doing it. Master, please protect me." I stood up and walked over to her. "Don't worry. I've got your back. Once you start, you'll realize how powerful this manual actually is." She took a deep breath and began. Almost immediately, the atmosphere changed. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth began to swirl, rushing toward her like a tide. As she followed the path of the manual, a natural, fluid aura spread through her body. I watched, jaw-dropping, as she instantly broke through to the first level of chi refining. A moment later, her aura solidified and surged again, level 2. I was stunned. This girl was a monster. So this was what a genius talent looked like. I felt a sudden pang of jealousy. Suddenly, a system notification popped up. Asterisk, your disciple has reached level 2 chi refining. 100% cultivation progress returned to host. Asterisk. My eyes lit up. There was a kickback. A faint, cool energy flowed into my body. I tried to feel it out, but it didn't do much. I was already at the golden core stage. A tiny bit of level 2 chi was like a drop of water in an ocean. Still, at least I didn't have to worry about her catching up to me. I'd always be one golden core ahead of her. I watched her for a while to make sure she was stable, then crawled back onto my wooden board and fell asleep. The system wouldn't give me a broken manual, so she was fine. Li Yingling got addicted. She practiced straight through the night until the morning sun began to peek through the cracks in the ruined temple door. "Master! Master!" I blinked my eyes open, feeling groggy. Li Yingling was staring at me, her big eyes full of pure adoration. "What is it?" I asked, confused. "I'm at level 5, she shouted, her voice trembling with excitement. "I reached level 5 chi refining in a single night. That manual really is a legendary technique." I let out a yawn and rolled over to go back to sleep. Hom. Good job." She wasn't letting me off that easily. "Master, I haven't reached foundation establishment yet, so I can't live without food. I haven't eaten in a whole day. We're in the middle of nowhere. What should I do?" I sighed. "You said it yourself. We're in the wilderness. Go catch a wild chicken. You're level 5 now. Surely you can handle a bird." She froze. This wasn't the immortal master treatment she had imagined when I tricked her into joining. Where was the refined grace? Where was the magic food? But seeing me motionless on the boards, she sighed. Maybe this was just how cultivation worked. She grabbed a wooden stick and walked toward the door, determined to hunt. Just as she stepped out, my voice trailed after her. "Remember to save 2 drumsticks for me." She nearly tripped over the doorstep. By noon, she dragged herself back into the temple, looking like she'd been through a war. Her pink dress was covered in mud, and her face was streaked with dirt. Instead of a chicken, she was clutching a wild rabbit. The chickens lived in the trees and were too hard to catch, so she had settled for a poor bunny. She looked at the cute creature with a bit of regret, but her stomach was growling too loud to care. Sure, the bunny was cute, but my stomach was screaming louder than my conscience. I pushed open the door to the ruined temple. Inside, Chu Xingchen was already boiling a pot of water. He looked up, saw my mud-streaked face and disheveled hair, and let out a long sigh. "I sent you out to hunt wild game," he said, shaking his head. "Why does it look like the wild game hunted you?" I nearly choked on my own rage. I wanted to snap back at him, but then I remembered that water heart manual. It was incredibly powerful. Maybe this man really was a hidden master, and this was all just some bizarre form of training. "They aren't exactly easy to catch," I muttered weakly. Chu Xingqian walked over and took the rabbit from my hands. He pinched its paws, checked its ears, and frowned. Too skinny. Next time, catch a fat one. Fat ones taste better when you roast them. Oh, I replied, feeling like a scolded child. He saw the pathetic look on my face and suddenly smirked with total confidence. Don't give me that look. Just watch. Once you see what your master can do, you'll have plenty of motivation to go hunting next time. I watched, confused, as he pulled out a dagger. With terrifyingly practiced movements, he began to butcher the cute rabbit. He used a 5-element spell to summon a stream of water, washing the meat clean in seconds. If there was one perk to him wandering the Xuanwu kingdom for years, it was his spice collection. He pulled jars of seasonings out of his spatial storage ring like a magician. Since time stood still inside the ring, everything was perfectly fresh. Soon, the air was thick with the scent of garlic and green onions. He made 3 different dishes, a spicy rabbit head, a red braised side, and a garlic-infused side. The aroma was intoxicating. Chu Xingqian pushed the plate of rabbit heads toward me. This was your first hunt. I'll let you have the best part. I looked at the rabbit. It had gone from cute to delicious in record time. My mouth was watering uncontrollably, but my heart still hesitated. As a young girl with a shred of compassion left, eating the meat was one thing, but eating the head? That felt like crossing a line. Then I took a bite of the meat. My resolve vanished instantly. The spicy, savory flavor exploded on my tongue. I couldn't stop. Within minutes, the meat was gone. I suddenly realized my master was right. This rabbit was way too skinny. There wasn't nearly enough of it. My eyes drifted toward my final boundary, the spicy rabbit head. Chu Xingqian noticed my internal struggle and spoke up casually. You really not going to eat that? If you don't, I will. I'll eat it. I'm eating it. I blurted out. I felt a flash of shame. I was actually gnawing on a rabbit's head. I blamed my master entirely. It was his fault for making it taste so good. After that meal, my enthusiasm for hunting skyrocketed. Between the food and the thrill of my cultivation rising every night, I was working harder than ever. Chu Xingqian didn't even have to nag me. I was already doing the work. Everything seemed perfect, except for the living conditions. I was a noble girl by birth, and I couldn't stand the filth of the ruined temple. I spent my free time scrubbing away spiderwebs, patching the drafty door, and even tearing down the last 2 boards from the altar to build a private partition for my bed. Chu Xingqian didn't mind. He probably figured a young woman needed her privacy, though he did joke that if he took on another disciple, they'd be sleeping in the hay. Half a month passed. One night, I was sitting by the fire, happily chewing on a roasted chicken leg, but I felt a bit stuck. Master, I said, sounding a little deflated. I've been stuck at level 9 Shi refining for a while now. Chu Xingqian was busy seasoning more chicken. Just keep practicing. You'll break through eventually. I cleared my throat. Master, in all the stories I've read, when people hit a wall, they usually have spirit pills or magical herbs to help them. We're the #1 sect in the kingdom, and you're the #1 cultivator. You must have some high-grade pills lying around, right? He looked up at me. I was giving him my best puppy dog eyes. Essentially, I was asking the old man to cough up the goods. Truth was, he didn't have any pills. If he hadn't taken me as a disciple, he'd still be stuck in the foundation establishment stage himself. But he wasn't about to tell me that. Well, he said, glancing at the dark sky, there is a way. The Xuanwu kingdom was a backwater place. It wasn't like the Central Plains where golden core cultivators were everywhere. Here, a golden core was basically a legendary ancestor. And since Chu Xingqian was now a flawless golden core, there were things he could do now that he never dared to do before. Hurry up and eat, he said firmly. Once you're done, I'm taking you to the sect's medicine garden to get you some spirit herbs. My eyes lit up. We have a medicine garden? I've walked all over these hills and didn't see a thing. He snorted. This place has no spirit veins. You think spirit herbs grow like radishes? You can't just dig a hole and drop them in. I didn't care about radishes. I was just thrilled to learn our sect wasn't as broke as I thought. If we had a hidden garden, my breakthrough to foundation establishment was practically guaranteed. I finished my chicken leg in record time, ignoring all my noble lady manners. Master, I'm full. Let's go. He looked a bit speechless at how fast I'd shifted gears, but he sighed and stood up. Fine. Let's move. Under the cover of a pitch-black night, we headed southeast. After an hour of climbing rugged mountain paths, I started to get suspicious. Master, isn't this garden a little far away? Spirit veins are like that, he replied. We're almost there. 30 minutes later, we arrived. The garden was breathtaking. Under the moonlight, the herbs shimmered with a soft, ethereal glow. It was even protected by a glowing yellow barrier. I looked at my master, expecting him to open the gate with some grand gesture. Instead, I watched him crouch down and start carefully melting a hole in the barrier using his own spiritual energy. He kept glancing around nervously. Once the hole was big enough, he shoved a burlap sack into my hands. I'll keep watch, he whispered. You go in. Grab whatever looks expensive. I stared at the hole, then at the sack, then back at him. My head was spinning. Master, are you setting me up? Is this really our garden? Just then, a distant, furious roar echoed through the night. Who is stealing my herbs? I froze. I wasn't an idiot. I knew exactly what was happening. This wasn't our garden. It belonged to another sect. As a well-educated noble girl, stealing went against everything I believed in. I opened my mouth to protest, but Chu Xingqian shushed me violently, his eyes wide. Quiet, he hissed. Just get in there. Don't wake up the brothers sleeping inside, Master hissed, pushing me toward the gap. Go now. Grab anything you see. He shoved the burlap sack into my hands. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Looking at the glowing herbs and then at my master's desperate expression, I realized I didn't have a choice. The arrow was already notched. I had to fire. I gritted my teeth, crouched low, and crawled through the hole in the barrier. I remembered the stories I'd read back in the capital. They always said the world of cultivation was full of deception. If I wanted to become an immortal, it meant someone else wouldn't. This had to be how it worked. It had to be. Once I was inside the field, my nerves took over. I didn't care what the plants were or how much they cost. I just grabbed the nearest stalks and ripped them out by the roots. I didn't worry about technique or preserving the medicinal properties. I just stuffed them into the sack as fast as I could. As the bag got heavier, a strange rush of adrenaline hit me. I actually started getting excited. I began hunting for the brightest, most luminous plants I could find. These things glowed like candles. If I brought enough back, we wouldn't even need lamps at night. I didn't stop until the sack was bursting at the seams. When I finally crawled back through the hole, Master was staring at me, completely dumbfounded. The sect we were robbing wasn't exactly a titan in the cultivation world. It was a small, local outfit. Even Master hadn't dared to provoke the bigger sects yet. But looking at my haul, I realized I hadn't been polite at all. I had stripped nearly a quarter of their entire field bare. I was buzzing with excitement, my footsteps a little too heavy as I ran toward him. That was my mistake. A disciple who had been dozing off nearby bolted upright. He rubbed his eyes, squinting at the field, and then let out a blood-curdling scream. A massive patch of his precious herbs was gone. Worse, the specific stalks the sect leader needed most had been ripped out, roots and all. What kind of brain-dead thief steals the yang-restoring herbs? The disciple roared. He grabbed a nearby bell and began ringing it frantically. Thieves! Someone help! There are thieves in the garden. My heart nearly leapt out of my chest. Master didn't waste a second. He grabbed my hand, and before I could even scream, the ground seemed to swallow us whole. He used an earth escape technique to pull us deep underground, vanishing into the darkness just as the guards arrived. As we zipped through the earth, I heard a distant, heartbroken wail echoing from above. Which bastard stole the celestial grass I worked so hard to collect? Furong, I have failed you. Master was a pro at running away. He must have practiced his escape techniques more than his actual combat skills. We surfaced in a random forest, but he didn't stop there. He doubled back, set up decoys to mask our tracks, and changed directions 8 different times. By the time we finally made it back to the safety of our ruined temple, I was shaking. Master, however, was perfectly calm. He took the heavy sack from my hands and started sorting the herbs on the floor. After checking the first few, his brow furrowed. Why did you only pick the herbs used for boosting male virility? He muttered. Master, I gasped, still trying to catch my breath. Are you sure we won't get caught? Not a chance, he said casually. I covered our tracks. We're solid. I looked at him. Cool, collected, not a single bead of sweat on his face. Between the expert tunneling and the effortless decoys, it was obvious he'd done this 1,000 times. Master, do you do this often? Not often, he replied, sorting through the pile. Back when my cultivation was low and I was traveling the country, people liked to cause trouble for me. I just learned to be quick on my feet. If your cultivation is so high now, why did we have to run? I asked. Couldn't you just kill them? Don't think so much, he said. That sect and I had a bit of a history. Taking a few of their weeds just settles the score. My curiosity piqued. What kind of history? Master sighed. The sect leader there has a Tao partner. She's pretty enough, but her character is trash. Unfortunately, the sect leader is head over heels for her. She took one look at my peerless aura and tried to seduce me multiple times. I refused, of course, but the sect leader caught us. I tried to explain that I wasn't the only one she was chasing. His top disciple was also in her bed, but that just made him angrier. The old dog chased me for 3 days and 3 nights after that. I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. Master glanced at me, but didn't say anything. He picked out a few choice herbs, ripped off the roots, and tossed them into a plain iron pot sitting over a fire. The rest of the hull disappeared into his storage ring. He added water and started the fire. His system-provided beginner's kit included basic alchemy, but it technically required a proper cauldron. After studying the techniques, he decided a cooking pot would work just fine. The pills would just look a bit uglier. As the water began to boil, Master focused. Since reaching the golden core stage, his control over spiritual energy was precise. He extracted the essence from the herbs until the water turned a thick, vibrant green. He boiled it down further, concentrating the power until only a single, shimmering drop of liquid remained. He wrapped the liquid in a bubble of energy and looked at me. Open up, disciple. I stared at the glowing green glob. Master, aren't pills supposed to be, solid? This looks like poison. If you just eat the raw herbs, the effect is weak and the side effects are nasty, he snapped. I went through the trouble of refining this for you, so stop complaining. Open up, then go practice. I didn't have much of a choice. I opened my mouth and swallowed. The second the liquid hit my tongue, an incredibly bitter taste exploded in my throat. I nearly gagged, but then I felt it, a massive surge of spiritual energy rushing through my veins. I scrambled to my straw bed and sat cross-legged, immediately entering a meditative state. Master watched me for a moment to make sure I wasn't going to explode, then sat down on his own bed to check his system interface. He had 2 beginner tasks. The first was to recruit a qualified disciple, done. The second was to get that disciple to the foundation establishment stage. Once I broke through, he'd get a new divine ability and unlock the main quest line. I could practically hear him sighing in his head. Most people finished beginner tasks in days, but he'd been stuck on this one for over 3 years. But the iron pot alchemy worked. I began to absorb the spiritual energy like a whale swallowing the ocean. Seeing me on the verge of a breakthrough, Master pulled several spirit stones from his ring and arranged them in a spirit-gathering array around me. He had given me a manual called the Water Heart Scripture. It was a top-tier cultivation method designed to build a perfect foundation. If the base isn't stable, you can never reach immortality. My breath slowed, my aura began to pull inward, and my foundation started to solidify. Half an hour later, a crisp notification echoed in Master's mind. Disciple Li Yingling has reached the foundation establishment stage. Reward issued. Divine ability, 3,000 weak water swords. New main quest, recruit 2 qualified disciples. The new quest flashed in my master's mind. Recruit 3 qualified disciples. The reward was the true martial grade hall, a major milestone for our sect. But finding good talent wasn't easy, and I watched as Master Chu Xingchen let out a long, heavy sigh. I finished adjusting my breath and opened my eyes, my heart racing with excitement over my new power. I wanted to thank him, but I saw him staring at me with a blank, hollow expression. Then he sighed again. My heart sank. Was my cultivation speed too slow? I quickly scanned my internal meridians, but everything felt perfect. Was my foundation unstable? I checked again and again, finding no flaws at all. That's when the real panic set in. If I couldn't find the problem, it meant the problem was fatal. Master, I whispered, my voice trembling. Am I going to die? Master snapped out of his daze and looked at me like I was talking nonsense. What are you babbling about? He reached into the air and pulled out a manual, tossing it toward me. This is a divine ability. It's a cultivator's ultimate trump card. Practice it well. I caught the book. The cover was clean and elegant, with the words 3,000 weak water swords written in beautiful, flowing calligraphy. It looked brand new, almost like something you'd find at a cheap roadside stall, but after the water heart scripture, I trusted Master implicitly. As long as it didn't blow me up, I was all in. I flipped through the pages, feeling the complexity of the movements. After a moment, I looked up. Master, do you have a sword? He gave me a weird look, then walked over to his wooden bed. With a quick snap, he broke off a piece of the bed frame and used his spiritual energy to shave it down into a rough wooden blade. He tossed the plank at me. Practice with that for now, he said. If it breaks, I'll make you a new one. There are plenty of trees outside. I was used to his eccentric ways by now. I picked up the wooden sword and crawled back onto my own straw bed to study, though I noticed Master was still sighing about finding more disciples. Meanwhile, at the bottom of the hill, a young man named Li Xingtian was trudging through the brush. His straw sandals were worn through, and his feet were bleeding, but his eyes were cold and sharp. In his past life, he had been a mediocre disciple of the Qingfeng sect who suffered endless humiliation. He eventually found a treasure that changed his fate, rising from the southern province all the way to the central continent, becoming a renowned genius. But his downfall was a woman, a demonic enchantress who tricked him, drained his cultivation, and didn't even let him hold her hand. Now he was reborn. He had one rule for this life: no women. He was heading for the mountain god temple at Shirley Slope. Hidden inside a stone there was a piece of thousand-year ancient jade. If he could absorb it, he would transform his body into the heavenly demon physique. He knew this secret because he had been the fated one in his previous life. This time, he had arrived even earlier. He scrambled over a familiar ridge, his heart pounding with anticipation. The temple was just ahead, but as he looked up, his blood ran cold. There was a girl there. She wore a pink flowing dress, her long hair cascading down her back like a waterfall. She was practicing a sword dance, her movements graceful and her spiritual aura surging with power. To anyone else, she looked like a goddess from the heavens. To Li Xingtian, she was a nightmare. Damn it, he cursed silently. A woman. He didn't move. He sensed she was already a foundation establishment cultivator while he was only at the second level of chi refinement. As he watched her, his eyes widened. She wasn't just practicing a basic technique. She was using a top-tier divine ability. It was perfectly suited to her, a feat most cultivators only dreamed of. Even in the central continent, only the elite, heavenly geniuses possessed such things. He grew envious and then terrified. A young girl with a custom divine ability at the foundation stage? She had to be a core disciple from a top-tier sect in the central continent. That meant an elder was likely nearby, guarding her. I came too early, he thought, cursing his luck. He began to back away slowly, trying to disappear. He turned to run, only to find a wooden sword pressed firmly against his throat. The girl's eyes were ice cold. Who sent you? I asked him, my voice sharp. Was it the minister of Xuanwu State? Or did the Taiqing sect find us? Li Xingtian froze. He had spent his last life learning when to surrender. He slowly raised his hands in the air. I don't know who those people are. I narrowed my eyes. Then what are you doing here? Before he could come up with a lie, a voice drifted over from the temple entrance. He's probably heard of our sect's great reputation, Master said, leaning against the doorframe with a lazy smile. This young talent must be here to join us. I looked at Master, completely speechless. Our sect was a rundown temple with a broken bed. Unless this guy was a total idiot, there was no way he'd believe we were famous. Master was strong, sure, but he wasn't exactly a household name. Master walked over, his eyes scanning the boy. Short hair, skinny frame, but remarkably calm despite having a sword at his neck. In Master's vision, the system interface lit up. Target, Li Xingtian, Cultivation, Qi Refinement Level 2, Gold Trait, Reincarnator, Purple Trait, Decisive Killer, Blue Trait, Deeply Loyal. Master smiled. The system had just told him a qualified disciple was nearby. He had found his next student. I stared at the boy in front of me, marveling at my luck. A reincarnator. He was practically a walking protagonist template. One of his traits, deeply loyal, made him the perfect candidate to be my little helper in the sect. It was a shame he wasn't a girl, but a talented disciple was a talented disciple. I had to recruit him. Li Xingtian looked at me with wide, terrified eyes, as if I could see straight through his soul. He probably thought I was some hidden expert protecting my disciple. He took a deep, shaky breath. "Senior," he asked cautiously, "may I ask the name of your sect?" My first disciple, Li Yingling, turned to me with equal curiosity. She'd asked me that a dozen times, and I'd always brushed her off because, honestly, I was terrible at naming things. But looking at the boy's desperate face, I knew I had to say something impressive, or this potential student would run for the hills. I looked up at the sky, letting a long, dramatic silence hang in the air. "Our sect," I said slowly, "is the Heavenly Tao Alliance." Li Xingtian's pupils shrunk. To name a sect after the Heavenly Tao itself? He must have thought his previous life's perspective was too narrow. He probably assumed we were from some ancient, hidden clan in the Middle Continent. "I am merely passing through," he said, bowing deeply. "I had no intention of disturbing you." I raised a hand, cutting him off. I narrowed my eyes, leaning in close. "I smell the scent of karma on you," I whispered. "Is it the scent of time?" Li Xingtian's heart nearly jumped out of his chest. He didn't dare look me in the eye. He was panicking. He probably thought I was some high-level monster who could see through the laws of time and space. He was likely wondering if I was here for the same treasure he was seeking. I decided to lean into the mystery. "Boy, carrying such heavy karma can be a blessing or a curse." What do you mean, senior?" he stammered. I put on my best mysterious master face. "Time is a torrent. It is a law. To swim against the current is to either be crushed into dust or to rise above the heavens." He took a deep breath, his expression turning resolute. "Whether I am crushed or I rise, I finally know what I must do in this life." I nodded, satisfied. Cultivation is, by nature, an act of defying heaven. I sighed, acting as if I were making a difficult decision. "Fine. It seems there is a fated connection between us. Are you willing to join my sect?" Li Xingtian froze. He was clearly suspicious, thinking I was setting a trap. I knew exactly what he was after. I could see his feet were bloody and raw from his journey. He had come here for something vital. "You underestimate the world," I laughed, sounding dismissive. "The treasure you seek is nothing more than a trifle to us. Go inside. Take what you came for." His secret was out. He looked at me in shock. "It's a pity," I added, shaking my head. "Your vision is too narrow to recognize what a true opportunity looks like." He struggled with the choice for a moment before bowing again. "Thank you for your mercy, senior. But I am not used to the restraints of a sect. Please forgive me." I turned away, acting indifferent. "Yingling, let him go." My disciple looked confused. I usually didn't let anyone off without a catch, but she played along. She withdrew her wooden sword and bowed to me. "Yes, master." She gave me a quick wink when the boy wasn't looking. Li Xingtian didn't look back. He scrambled up the slope and into the ruined temple. He noticed the signs of our living there, the broken boards, the mess, and rushed to the base of the statue. He reached under the floorboards, but his face went pale. The stone he was looking for was gone. "The thing you're looking for," my voice drifted in from the doorway. "I'm using it to level the table." He didn't turn around. He looked at the table leg. Sure enough, his precious 1,000-year ancient jade was being used as a shim to stop the table from wobbling. He didn't complain. He walked over, lifted the table, and gripped the jade tightly. He looked like a man who had just saved his own life. After one last bow of gratitude, he bolted out of the temple. Yingling walked in, crossing her arms. "Master, you really just let him go? You never do anything without getting a benefit." I dropped the expert act immediately. "Stay here and practice. I'm going out for a bit." She rolled her eyes. That sounded more like me. "Wait, master. Is our sect really called the Heavenly Tao Alliance? Or were you just fooling that idiot?" "It's real," I called back, turning into a streak of red light as I vanished into the woods. Yingling stood there, rubbing her chin. She summoned her wooden sword back to her hand. She had been working on the 3,000-week water swords for 5 days and was still only at the beginner stage. It was the first time she had ever struggled with a technique. No wonder I was so desperate to find another student. I watched Yingling's silhouette as I flew away. She was frustrated. She probably thought her talent wasn't enough to satisfy me anymore. I felt bad, but I had a mission to complete. Meanwhile, Li Xingtian was moving fast. He had a clear goal. He headed straight for the nearest large town. Refining the 1,000-year ancient jade required a quiet, safe space and at least a full day of concentration. He wasn't about to go back to his old sect, the Qingfeng sect. Only an idiot would do that. Besides, he couldn't go back even if he wanted to. He had snuck out, and by now, he was likely labeled a traitor on their wanted list. He planned to find an inn, pay the waiters extra to keep everyone away, and refine the jade. Once his physique was awakened, he'd head for the Central Plains. There were more opportunities waiting for him there. But one thing kept nagging at him. My voice. My words kept looping in his head. Had he really missed a true opportunity by refusing me? He sighed, shaking the thought away. His previous sect had let him down completely. In his past life, he became a legend in the Central Plains without relying on anyone. He told himself he could do it again. He didn't need a master. He didn't need a sect. A day later, after trekking through the wilderness, he finally reached a bustling town. He found an inn, but he didn't go straight to his room. He was starving. He was only at the second level of qi refining, and his travel rations had run out long ago. As he sat down and ordered a massive spread of food, he felt a strange sense of reality. The hunger felt real. His life felt real. Then his smile vanished. He saw them. A group of disciples in white and green robes were walking down from the second floor. They were from the Qingfeng sect. Xingtian ducked his head immediately, cursing his luck. He tried to stay invisible, but the world doesn't work that way. One of the disciples paused. He looked at the back of Xingtian's head, squinted, and then tugged on his senior brother's sleeve. He pointed. The senior brother's eyes narrowed. The group of 5 walked straight to Xingtian's table. The leader sat down heavily, staring Xingtian down. Aren't you the one on the traitor list? Li Xingtian. Xingtian knew he couldn't hide anymore. He looked up, scanning them. No Foundation establishment experts. 3 were at the 3rd level of qi refining, 1 was at the 4th, and the leader was at the 5th. Xingtian was only at the 2nd level, but he had the memories of a master. He knew techniques that could crush these rookies. If he didn't kill them now, they'd hunt him forever. Strike first, talk later. Xingtian grabbed a chopstick. His spiritual energy exploded. He went for the leader. It was a lightning-fast move meant to end the fight before it started. But the senior brother was ready. He sneered, his 5th-level cultivation surging as he swung a massive palm toward Xingtian's head. To him, a 2nd-level cultivator was just trash. The chopstick met the palm. The result shocked everyone. The wooden stick pierced straight through the senior brother's hand like a spear. Xingtian didn't stop. He pushed forward, aiming for the man's throat. Just as he was about to land the killing blow, a terrifying pressure filled the room. A golden core aura erupted from the 2nd floor. A blast of red energy, shaped like a dragon, slammed into Xingtian's side. Xingtian flew backward, crashing through tables. He looked up, coughing blood. A white-haired old man stood on the balcony, looking down with cold indifference. It was the 2nd elder of the Qingfeng sect, a golden core master. He was done for. The gap was too wide. Traitor, the elder said calmly. Attacking your own kin. According to our laws, you shall be burned alive as a human lamp. Xingtian couldn't move. His meridians were shattered. His energy was gone. In that moment of despair, my face flashed in his mind. I had warned him. History was a river, and he was trying to swim against the current. He realized he had been too arrogant. He thought he knew everything because of his past life, but he forgot that changing one thing changes everything. Maybe my offer to take him as a disciple wasn't a trick. Maybe I was just trying to save his life. An expert who could see through time would have known this was coming. He didn't regret his choices, but he felt a crushing sense of bitterness. Stop. Give me some face and let him go, okay? A familiar voice cut through the tension. Xingtian turned his head. I was sitting at a nearby table, looking disappointed, slowly sipping a cup of tea. The 2nd elder's eyes locked onto me. He couldn't sense my cultivation level at all. His cold expression finally flickered with a hint of caution. And who might you be, fellow Taoist? I didn't answer with words. I picked up a chopstick from my table and pointed it forward. A terrifying, ancient sword intent surged from the wood. Spiritual energy swirled around the chopstick, forming a small white dragon. A divine ability, the elder gasped, his voice trembling. He took a deep breath, his tone suddenly becoming polite. Sir, this boy is a traitor to our sect. He wounded my disciples. It is only right that I take him. I sighed. I don't like using my status to bully people, but this boy has a destiny with me. Can you spare him? I'll compensate you. The elder hesitated, then shook his head. If I let him go, the Qingfeng sect loses all its prestige. Spare me. Xingtian suddenly laughed from the floor, spitting blood. Since the day I joined as an outer disciple, did you ever treat me like one? I spent 3 years digging in the spirit mines. 17 kids from my village joined with me. I'm the only one left alive. Your mercy was sending me into the spirit forest to dig for herbs where even inner disciples fear to go. The elder's face went pale. Traitor, how dare you slander us? I blinked, then a cold smile spread across my face. Oh, so I'm actually the one with the moral high ground here. I should have known. Xingtian had the loyal and righteous trait. He wouldn't just betray a sect for no reason. I pulled up my system interface and scanned the old man on the balcony. Name, Shengwan Hong. Cultivation, mid-stage golden core. Traits, scheming, blue. Decent talent, white. Near death, black. Heart demons, black. I felt a sudden surge of confidence. He wasn't a powerhouse. He was a dying old man struggling with his own mind. I had the power, and now I had the right. I let out a cold laugh, my voice booming through the tavern. And here I thought the Qingfeng sect was some prestigious path to immortality. Turns out, you're nothing but a bunch of blood-sucking parasites. My Central State Heavenly Alliance would never associate with filth like you. I leaned in, my eyes narrowing. Now, you old dog, you can either tuck your tail and crawl back home, or I'll rip your head off and kick it around like a ball. As soon as the words left my lips, the sword intent swirling around my chopsticks let out a silent roar. It expanded instantly, a shimmering, lethal pressure aimed straight at the second elder. He froze. The tavern was empty now. The locals had long since bolted, leaving only the Qingfeng disciples huddled in the corners, trembling as they watched us face off. The elder was sweating. He couldn't sense my true cultivation level, which meant I had to be at least at the mid-stage of the golden core realm. Even if I was just a lucky kid, that 3,000-week water technique I'd just flashed was terrifying. Plus, the mention of the Central State hit him like a thunderclap. In the southern lands, anyone from the Central State was a big deal. The Qingfeng sect couldn't afford that kind of enemy. He knew I might be bluffing, but looking at the raw power in my hand, he wasn't brave enough to gamble his life on it. Just as he was trying to find a face-saving way to retreat, a frantic voice called out from the door. Wait, seniors, please, don't fight. A middle-aged man in the uniform of the Demon Suppression Bureau rushed in. He was a Foundation establishment cultivator, the local authority. Seniors, let's talk this out. This is a mortal town. If you start a war here, the karma from the collateral damage alone would ruin your cultivation. Is it really worth it? The elder let out a breath he'd clearly been holding. He stroked his beard, acting dignified. Since the director has stepped in, I shall give you face. I'll let this go. I slowly pulled back my chopsticks. Killing him would have been easy, but messy. This was the Great Wu Kingdom's territory, and I didn't need the government on my back over a dying old man with heart demons. He'd probably drop dead in a few days anyway. Without a word, I grabbed the bloodied Li Xingtian. We turned into a streak of red light and vanished. The elder waited until I was long gone before he sighed in relief. He thanked the director, then flew down to his disciples. He walked up to the senior student who still had a chopstick impaled through his hand and ripped it out without a word of sympathy. As the boy whimpered, the elder glared at the group. Get back to the sect, you useless failures. I didn't head straight home. I took a winding route, doubling back several times to lose any tail before finally landing at the ruined temple. Thank you, senior, for saving me, Li Xingtian rasped, clutching his chest. Don't thank me, I replied. Thank my first disciple. He looked confused, but I didn't explain. I was still buzzing from the realization that Li Yingling had actually mastered that divine ability in just a few days. Because she learned it. The system had synced the reward to me, giving me the power to scare off a golden core elder with a pair of chopsticks. She was a genius. I made a mental note to give her an extra chicken leg for dinner. As we landed, I saw Yingling playing with her wooden sword. Water dragons spiraled around the blade, dancing to her whim. She looked happy until she saw the battered boy I was carrying. "Master," she cried, running over. She looked at Li Xingtian's broken body and then back at me with a worried frown. "I know he didn't want to join us at first, but you didn't have to beat him half to death just to bring him back." I stared at her. "You really think that's my style? Fine. Next time I'll let you handle the kidnapping." She shrank back, looking guilty. "Master, I don't have any experience with that. Don't be mad if I mess it up." "I wasn't hurt by the senior." Li Xingtian gasped, trying to defend me. "Please, don't misunderstand." I carried him inside and laid him on my wooden bed. "Don't listen to her," I told him. "She's just messing with you." I pressed my hand to his chest, sending a thread of spiritual energy through his body to check his injuries. My heart sank. It was bad. A golden core strike is no joke for someone at the chi refinement stage. His internal organs were crushed, and his meridians were shredded. Yet, looking at his face, he wasn't even flinching. A true reincarnator, I thought. Tough as nails. "You're a sturdy kid," I muttered, then looked over at Yingling. "Disciple, get the pot ready. We're refining medicine." Her eyes lit up. She hated drinking my concoctions, but she clearly loved watching someone else suffer through it. "On it, master," she chirped, scurrying over to start the fire. I dug through my storage ring. I had a few spiritual herbs left, just enough for a healing brew. I wanted this kid to be so grateful he'd bow down and join the sect the moment he could walk. I threw the herbs into the boiling water, roots and all. The water turned a murky, swampy green, and a foul stench began to fill the temple. Yingling didn't mind the smell. She just watched the bubbling pot with a predatory grin. When the water had boiled down by half, I added the final ingredient, a blue moon flower. The liquid hissed, turning a dark, sickly emerald green. I used my energy to extract the final essence, condensing it into a single, glowing drop of concentrated sludge. Yingling stared at the dark droplet, her expression turning from excitement to deep sympathy for the boy on the bed. She finally realized I hadn't been trying to poison her before. This was just how my alchemy worked. The stories about glowing golden pills and fairy tales? Total lies. This was the real, smelly deal. You only truly understand cultivation once you experience it yourself. Li Xingtian sat up, his body trembling as he fought through the agony. He stared at the dark green droplet floating in front of him, encased in my spiritual energy. It looked murky, thick, and utterly repulsive. I could see the dread growing in his eyes. He knew exactly what was coming. "Here," I said, guiding the liquid toward his lips with a faint smile. "Open up. My alchemy skills are decent enough. Swallow this, and you'll be fine." The boy who hadn't flinched while his organs were being crushed finally lost his composure. His face paled. This wasn't a pill, it was a glob of swamp water. He had never heard of anyone refining medicine in a common cooking pot. A real man could face blood and pain, but facing something that looked like liquid waste was a different story. He hesitated. He resisted. He looked like he wanted to protest, but I had saved his life. If I hadn't, he probably would have fought back and tried to shove the foul-smelling sludge into my own mouth. Instead, he closed his eyes with the expression of a man marching to his execution and opened his mouth wide. The taste didn't disappoint. It was exactly as bad as it looked. A wave of rot and staggering bitterness exploded on his tongue, sinking deep into his soul. His face contorted into a mask of pure disgust. But then, something shifted. As the burning sensation traveled down his throat, the medicinal essence began to nourish his shredded meridians and damaged organs. The physical pain receded instantly. The only problem was that he felt even more miserable than before. His entire mouth was stained with bitterness, and his stomach seemed to be actively trying to reject the brew. "Good medicine tastes bitter," I said, clearing my throat to offer some comfort. "Just endure it, and it'll pass." Li Yingling, my first disciple and the original test subject for my cooking, looked at him with deep empathy. "Master, this isn't the kind of thing you just endure." I turned and gave her a long, silent look. She caught my drift immediately. Actually, the taste is fine, she corrected herself, her voice full of forced confidence. No need to endure it all. It's great. I didn't dwell on it. Getting this recruit was going smoothly, mostly thanks to her intimidation earlier. I turned my attention back to her. I see you've made some progress with that divine ability. How does it feel? Yingling paused. She had spent days just to scratch the surface of the technique. She thought I was being sarcastic again, mocking her slow progress. She nervously toyed with a lock of her black hair, her face flushing slightly as she looked away. It's very powerful, she muttered. But it's also really difficult. I blinked. She had mastered the basics in just a few days, and she called that difficult? My disciple was a natural at accidental humble bragging. I put on my most dignified master face and nodded. Well, just keep practicing diligently. Yes, master. Night fell over the ruined temple. I sat by the campfire and handed a roasted rabbit head to Yingling, the MVP of the day. I gave the other half of the rabbit to Li Xingtian. He was feeling much better now. The medicine might have tasted like death, but its healing effects were superior to any standard recovery pill. He looked at the perfectly roasted meat, then at Yingling, who was happily munching on the rabbit head. Even while eating, she looked like a graceful fairy. Li Xingtian didn't move. It wasn't that he wasn't hungry. He just felt he had no right to eat it. Eat, I said, breaking the silence. This rabbit didn't come with a contract attached. Li Xingtian understood the subtext. He wasn't thinking about hidden costs, though. He looked at me earnestly. It's not that, senior. I just haven't repaid you for saving my life yet. I nodded, smiling on the outside, but under the table, I was frantically signaling Yingling with my hand. I needed an assist. She noticed my gesture mid-bite and immediately understood. As my self-proclaimed precious disciple, she never missed a chance to back me up. She set the rabbit head down, her expression turning icy. Stop explaining, she snapped. You're broke and have nothing. My master saved your life, and he even gave you the secret treasure that you were looking for. You think our Heavenly Tao Alliance is trying to scam you? Look at yourself. Do you even think you're worth the effort? She leaned in, her voice cold. Master giving you a chance is an honor. I don't know what he sees in you, but personally, I don't think your talent is even good enough to join us. Li Xingtian looked at her, then at the half-eaten rabbit head in her hand. The cold attitude lost a bit of its sting because of the grease on her chin, but the words still hit home. It's not that I'm ungrateful, Li Xingtian explained softly. I just have things I must do. I can't stay cooped up in a sect forever. I know the senior only offered to take me in to save my life. I nodded in agreement. Most sects acted like prisons for their disciples. The Heavenly Tao Alliance is different, I said smoothly. As long as your heart belongs to the sect, you can go to the ends of the earth. Li Xingtian looked at the rabbit meat again. He picked up his chopsticks and took a bite. He wasn't stupid. He knew this was his best chance. Repaying a debt was his code, and if this sect turned out to be trash, he could always run away later. The moment the meat hit his tongue, his eyes widened. Holy crap, this was the best thing he had ever tasted. He felt like he was selling his soul for a piece of rabbit, but it was worth it. Master, he said, smiling for the first time. Your cooking is incredible. The system chimed in my head. Recruitment successful. Second disciple, Li Xingtian. Reward, primordial chaos body refinement scripture. Please use with the heavenly demon physique to complete the next task. Reward, great spirit array. All items placed in inventory. I nodded, satisfied. Eat as much as you like. Yes, master, he said respectfully. Yingling cleared her throat, sitting up straight to look the part of a senior sister. As the second disciple, you'll have to work hard to keep up. Li Xingtian bowed his head. I won't let you down, senior sister. Yingling looked pleased. The new kid was quick to learn the social order. She decided she'd look out for him. After all, he had almost died after just one day outside. He clearly wasn't the brightest, and she couldn't figure out what I saw in him, but he was hers to protect now. Maybe our sect was just desperate for people. Li Yingling was clearly excited about her new promotion to senior sister. She glanced over at me, probably expecting a proud smile or a celebratory nod. But I wasn't smiling. My face was clouded with worry, and I couldn't hide it. Both of my disciples noticed. Yingling hesitated, then whispered cautiously, Master? I snapped out of it, and closed the system interface floating in my vision. "What is it? Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be? You looked unhappy," she muttered. I realized I'd let my guard down. "Oh, I was just researching a cultivation technique for your junior brother." Li Xingtian spoke up immediately. "Master, there's no need. I have my own techniques." I didn't argue. I simply reached into the system inventory and pulled out the Primordial Chaos Body Refinement Scripture. A book with a blood-red cover materialized in my hand. I handed it to him. "Just take a look," I said calmly. "If you don't like it, you can stick to your own. I won't force you." Xingtian looked relieved. He took the book, but as his fingers touched the cover, he stiffened. The manual gave off a faint, metallic scent, like fresh blood. I didn't stay to chat. I stood up and walked back to my wooden bed, lying down to stare at the ceiling. My disciples shared a confused look. Xingtian raised an eyebrow at Yingling, asking silently, "What's wrong with him?" Yingling just shrugged and went back to gnawing on her rabbit head. If she knew what was wrong, she wouldn't have asked in the first place. She figured the new kid just wasn't very bright. Xingtian turned his attention to the book. The calligraphy on the cover was bold and aggressive, practically screaming with killing intent. He ran a finger over the paper. It felt like ordinary parchment, yet that smell of blood lingered. "Is this a transcript?" he wondered. "How can a copy smell like a slaughterhouse?" He flipped to the first page. His eyes widened. He began scanning the lines, flipping faster and faster. By the second page, his face was pale. Yingling noticed his shock. She decided to play the role of the experienced mentor. "It's just a cultivation manual, junior brother. It's normal for them to be revised or have messy handwriting. Just practice it boldly." Xingtian looked at her, then at me, then back at the book. He leaned in and lowered his voice to a terrified whisper. "Senior sister, is the Heavenly Tao Alliance an evil sect?" Yingling frowned. "Evil? What are you talking about? We follow the righteous path. Don't talk nonsense." Without a word, Xingtian handed her the manual. She took it, curious. The handwriting was actually beautiful, clean, sharp, and professional. It looked much better than her own manual. But as she started reading, her expression shifted from curiosity to pure horror. She flipped through a few more pages and then shoved the book back into his hands like it was a hot coal. "Holy crap," she hissed. "What kind of cultivation is this bloody?" She didn't even finish her rabbit. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. Find a spot on the floor, kid." She scrambled behind her wooden partition and hid. I was a golden core cultivator. I heard every word. I didn't even open my eyes. "It's not an evil technique," I said into the quiet room. Xingtian looked down at the text again. "To reach Foundation establishment, one must first kill 1,000 bloodstones, dismantle their limbs, and melt their bones into the marrow." He looked toward my bed. "Master, I think your definition of evil might be a little too relaxed." "Bloodstones don't have to be people," I replied. "Just go into the forest and find some low-level spirit beasts. They count." Xingtian went quiet. He realized that if what I said was true, this technique was leagues better than anything he had practiced in his previous life. It was a perfect match for the heavenly demon physique he was trying to build. He wasn't one to overthink things. If he needed blood to grow, he'd find it. He decided to try it once he started his refinement. If it felt wrong, he'd just stop. His worries were gone, but mine were just beginning. The reason I looked so miserable earlier was the system reward. The Great Spirit Array wasn't a finished product. It was a blueprint. The system didn't just build things for me. I had to provide the materials, the spirit stones, and the manual labor. It was basically a high-tech, do-it-yourself guide. And I was broke. I didn't have the money for this. I just hoped the true Martial Great Hall wouldn't be the same way, or I'd be laying bricks for the next decade. The next morning, I was out in the field with the blueprint. I was measuring the land and sticking branches into the dirt to mark the boundaries. The blueprint was reusable, which was the only silver lining. This mountain wasn't a natural spiritual hub. The chi here was thin. To grow a sect, I needed a proper array to gather energy. I used to just burn spirit stones to help Yingling practice, but that was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore with 2 mouths to feed. I was going broke just keeping her supplied. I was busy marking the next spot when, boom, a massive shockwave ripped through the air. Dirt and rocks went flying everywhere. I waved my hand to blast the dust away and glared toward the source. There was Li Yingling, with sword in hand, sweating and determined. She was using her new divine abilities to blast massive craters into the ground, helping me dig the foundations. She was a foundation establishment expert now. The dirt didn't even touch her clothes. She just kept swinging, focused and fierce, turning the hillside into a construction zone. Another violent burst of sword energy slammed into the ground. The earth shook, and a deafening boom echoed through the clearing. I jumped back and waved my hands frantically to stop her. "Wait! Stop!" I shouted. Li Yingling froze. She lowered her wooden sword and looked at me with genuine confusion. "What's wrong, master?" "Is that how you dig a hole?" I asked, gesturing to the mess. She tilted her head. "If I don't dig it like this, how else am I supposed to do it?" I rubbed my temples. "When we bury the array stones later, we need to pack the dirt back in. You're blowing the soil all over the mountain. What am I supposed to use to fill the holes?" "Your little head." Li Yingling looked at the scattered dirt and then back at me. She looked a little hurt. "But if I don't do it this way, it'll take forever." I softened my voice. "I didn't say you had to finish it in one day. Just dig a bit when you have free time after training. Once your junior brother finishes refining that jade, he can help you. Don't be in such a rush. I'll make you something delicious later." Her eyes brightened at the mention of food. She nodded obediently. "I understand." She began using her chi to control the wooden sword, carving into the earth more precisely and stacking the soil neatly to the side. She was a handful, but when she decided to listen, she was the perfect student. I watched her for a moment to make sure she wouldn't blow up any more hillsides, then headed off to mark the rest of the coordinates. Mapping out the Great Spirit Array didn't take long. With the system blueprint in hand, I finished the layout within an hour. Once the last branch was in the ground, I slipped back into the ruined temple to check on my new recruit. Li Xingtian was sitting cross-legged in the center of the room. The piece of ancient jade was floating above his head, pouring emerald light down into his body. It was washing away the impurities in his bones and strengthening his foundation. I watched him for a few minutes. Everything looked stable. I sat down on my rickety wooden bed and sighed. The blueprints were free, but the materials weren't. I needed spirit stones, lots of them. I was broke, but I had a plan. My eyes drifted toward my second disciple. Li Xingtian was a reincarnator. That meant he knew things. He knew where the hidden treasures were, which ancient tombs hadn't been raided yet, and which forbidden zones were actually gold mines. In this world, people called it exploring secret realms, but let's be honest, it was professional grave robbing. If the big sects could send elders and disciples to strip these places bare, so could I. My goal was to build a righteous sect, and every great sect needed a solid financial foundation. I lay back on the hardwood, waiting for him to wake up so I could pick his brain. By noon, the sun was high, and Li Xingtian was still deep in his meditation. Li Yingling came back first, panting and covered in dust. Her spiritual energy was fluctuating wildly from the manual labor. She saw me lying there, looking perfectly relaxed, and puffed out her cheeks. "Master," she grumbled, "why am I the only one digging?" I sat up and cleared my throat. "Do you think I'm just being lazy?" "Aren't you?" she countered. "You said you'd help me after you finished the markings." I took a deep breath, shifting into master mode. "What kind of talk is that? Are you complaining about contributing to your own sect? Do you have any idea how much mental energy I spend planning your future?" Li Yingling opened her mouth to argue, but she knew she couldn't win a logic battle with me. Instead, she changed her tactics. Her eyes welled up with tears, and she looked at me with a face of pure, tragic betrayal. "It's fine, master," she whispered, her voice trembling. "If you don't want to dig, I'll do it alone. I just didn't think you'd lie to me. I didn't think you saw me as that kind of person." I stared at her. She was a natural-born actress. I was almost impressed. "I was just worried about your junior brother," I said, pointing at the glowing boy. "He's been at it for hours. His talent isn't as high as yours, so I had to stay close in case something went wrong. You're so capable and smart, I don't have to worry about you at all. He's the one who needs the extra help." Li Yingling's expression shifted instantly. The tears vanished, replaced by a cold, aloof mask. "You don't need to say more, master. Since he has joined our sect and his cultivation is the lowest, it is only right that we look after him." I knew Li Xingtian was waking up before I even heard him move. I could feel the shift in the air. Since you're so concerned, I told her, go out and hunt something for dinner. As you wish, master, she said, bowing quickly before darting out of the temple. I'm sorry, master. A voice came from behind me. My lack of talent has caused you so much trouble. I didn't turn around. I just kept my back to him, trying to look profound. As long as you know, you need to put in more effort. Li Xingtian had successfully refined the jade. He stood up, stretching his limbs as his internal energy flowed smoothly for the first time in this life. He looked at me with a mix of guilt and respect. He had seen a lot in his past life, and he could tell I genuinely cared about his progress. That manual I gave him was high-tier stuff, even by the standards of the Central Continent. Then he noticed the look in my eyes. It wasn't the look of a worried teacher anymore. It was the look of a man staring at a winning lottery ticket. Master, he asked nervously, is something wrong? I leaned in. Xingtian, think carefully. You've traveled a lot. Do you know any secret realms nearby? Places with hidden treasures or ancient heritages that haven't been opened yet? He let out a long breath of relief. He thought I was going to scold him. The secret realms around here have been picked clean by the local sects for centuries, master. Real opportunities don't show up until you reach the central province. That's where the world's spirit veins gather. I frowned. So there's nowhere nearby to make some quick spirit stones?